Thank you, Bobby. Our speakers today are Pia Hultgren and Karin Lange. Pia is a member of the Zonta Club of Lange near Stockholm in Sweden in District 21. Pia is a professional meteorologist, and her career has included work in the military and now presentations on television. She enjoys sailing and has sailed the Atlantic several times and has also sailed to Brisbane, a journey that took 10 months. Oh my goodness. Pia is a key member of the Zonta Says Now working group, where she leads the social media team and also instrumental in establishing the climate committee in District 21. Karin Lange is based in Germany and is a member of the Zonta Club of Berlin 1989 in District 27. Karin is a PR consultant and freelance journalist specializing in political communications, corporate communications, and science communications, focusing on medicine and healthcare. Karin is the press spokesman for the Union of German Zonta Clubs, the UN Advocacy Chair for District 27, and a valued member of the Zonta Says Now working group. Karin's advice and technical expertise laid the foundation for the international rollout of Zonta Says Now. Over to you, Pia and Karin.
Thank you, Angela. So, the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence is coming up. So today we will look at how climate change contributes to intimate partner violence, sexual violence, human trafficking and sexual exploitation, female genital mutilation and child marriage.
Yes, and there have been many studies showing how gender-based violence increases in disasters around the world. Heat, drought, fires, floods, and storms can generate potential triggers for gender-based violence, such as, give me a click, yes, unsafe or insecure housing, substance abuse, stress, trauma, grief, and loss, and click, as well relationship problems, unemployment, and economic pressures, complex bureaucratic processes regarding grants, insurance and rebuilding, reduced informal and formal support and services, and click the report, restricted movement and transport options as well, changed community, and a different life course. Click. The report found that in disasters, there is enormous pressure on women from family members, friends, police, and even health professionals, not to speak of men's violence. The authors concluded that until there's effective action, the vicious circle of disaster, followed by increased gender-based violence and strengthened patriarchal power, will continue.
Against that background, let's take a look at the intimate partner violence. A number of studies have shown the links between extreme heat and rising domestic violence. A Yale University study tracked nearly 200,000 girls and women who lived in India, Pakistan, and Nepal. They found that there was a 1 degree Celsius increase in the average annual temperature. There was more than 6% rise in physical sexual domestic violence. Click. In Madrid, researchers found the risk of intimate partner femicide rose by 40% in a heat wave. Click. In Kenya, women who experienced severe weather events, including heat waves, were 60% more likely to report intimate partner violence. We read so many statistics, but what does it mean for women? This is Suniti's story. She lives in India. When the May and June heat and it became impossible for my husband to work in the fields, we would lose our only source of income. He becomes angry because he feels helpless about not being able to feed the children. When the frustration builds up and the children are whining and fighting, he takes it out on me. He also beats them too. He regrets hitting the children later, but the next day, when he still can't go out and earn, he does it again. After major bushfires in Australia, survivors talked about their experience with gender-based violence. This comment was chilling. Emma said, "It's like he's died. It's like I'm a widow, but the corpse, it's still here to beat me up." Karin.
Yes, let's look with this at sexual violence. When women are displaced, they are at greater risk of violence, including sexual violence. While they sleep, wash, bathe, or dress in emergency shelters, tents, or camps, the risk of sexual violence is a tragic reality of their lives as migrants or refugees. There are reports of migrant women who have suffered sexual violence while under the protection of the authorities, and who, upon reporting it, instead of being protected, have been imprisoned. In families where men left home to seek a living elsewhere, women and children were left to fend for themselves, which made them vulnerable to violence and sexual exploitation. In the US, following Hurricane Katrina, the rate of rape among women displaced to trailer parks rose 53.6 times the baseline rate in Mississippi for that year. Sometimes sex is also used as currency. In Uganda, for instance, climate change have increased crop failure, livestock loss, and food insecurity. Some food vendors, farmers, or landowners insist on trading sex with women in exchange for food or rent. Often attempts by women to negotiate providing labor in exchange for food are rejected. And in Lake Victoria in Kenya, men catch the fish and women sell it. Overfishing, agricultural runoff, and warming temperatures have led to fewer fish in this lake. Fishermen weren't catching enough to supply all the women fishmongers, so the fishermen started the Yaboya system. Give me sex and I'll make sure you get fish to sell. For many women, the survival of their family depends on getting fish to sell, so they felt they had to comply. The fishermen travel from village to village with many sexual partners and do not like to use condoms, so there is as well a high prevalence of HIV.
Globally, women and girls bear the brunt of water acquisition, distribution, and related household tasks. Climate change is leading to more drought or more polluted water sources, and women and girls must walk further to access safe water. Water insecurity can trigger gender-based violence in the home, walking to collection points, and at collection points. Click. For example, if there is insufficient water in the household, this can generate verbal disputes and violence. Violence could be directed towards children to enforce water collection rules. Women and girls may be physically abused if they don't provide sufficient water or ask for help to collect water to take too long to collect the water. Click. Women and girls cannot easily change their water collection routines, making it easy for men to target them with sexual harassment, physical assault, rape, or abduction. throughout the water collection process. Click. In addition, when the women and girls arrive at the water collection points, there may be fights due to long queues, and there may be required to perform transactional sex. When the water is collected, the women and girls must take the return journey knowing they have to go through the same thing tomorrow. Let us not forget the women and environmental human rights defenders who face gender-based violence in defense of land, natural resources, and human rights. The IUCN reported that between 2015 to 16 in Central America, there were 2,197 documented attacks against women defenders. Nearly a third were intimidation and psychological harassment. 21 women defenders were murdered, with another 44 attempted murders. Over half of the assailants were police, military personnel, public officials, or governmental authorities.
Yes, and with this, we are at the as well series theme of human trafficking. Let's take a look at this. Today, 1 in 130 women and girls globally is living in modern slavery. This map shows that in countries where there is more slavery, shown in red, there's also more gender inequality, shown by bigger circles. Countries in Africa and Asia are most at risk for both gender inequality and slavery. Climate change can be a trigger for human trafficking, as demonstrated by Onima's story. She lives in Bangladesh, and she says, "We didn't have any wage-earning brother, so we sisters used to grow spinach and other vegetables to sell in the market, not far from the border with India. During storms and floods, it was impossible to grow crops, and so we used to live in complete poverty. There was a woman who would regularly come by to try and sell her goods, often striking up conversation with the family when she did. At the time we were in crisis, she said she could help. She claimed that a domestic helper abroad I could earn $80 each month, which was about 10 times what I had been earning at the market. Given our situation, it was difficult to say no. After a few days, we rode a motorbike together to the border, then walked to the other side. We went to the train station where we met another man, and the woman left me. Eventually, we reached Mumbai, where I worked in a brothel. One day, the brothel owner took me and others in the brothel to the market to show me off. I ran away and found a police officer who rescued me. Now I'm back in Bangladesh and being supported by an NGO. When communities are destroyed and housing is in short supply, women can be very vulnerable. Adverts, like you see here, appear often after disasters. Is it a farm, someone trying to help? Is it from someone to try who wants to try to help, or is it the first step on a human trafficking story?
Yes, and how does climate change worsens the occurrences of female genital mutilation? We from now on call it FGM. This story describes the links. Margaret is 19 and comes from a Maasai community in the southern Kenya that was dramatically hit by the drought. All of her father's cows died last year. You know, our family depends on cows, she said. There is no other option. Her father could no longer afford to pay for her schooling, so he pulled her out. Looking for a source of income, he and her grandfather prepared to have her circumcised, that is FGM, and married off for a dowry. They only get 5 cows, sugar, blankets, and then it is over. You are married off, she said. Margaret escaped to a rescue center that helps girls and young women in her situation. FGM has been illegal in Kenya since 2011, but the law is not well enforced. FGM is closely linked to our final form of violence.
Yes, and with this, we come to one of our main topics, child marriage, which we want to end together with our partners at UN. And UN Women points out that child marriage usually means an end to girls' education, as we well know. It means an end to vocation and her right to make life choices. Research confirms that girls who marry in childhood are at greater risk for intimate partner violence than girls of the same age who marry later. Save the Children's Global Girlhood report shows how the impacts of climate disasters can increase the risk of child marriage in 4 ways. Firstly, when health and nutrition services are interrupted, girls' sexual and reproductive health needs are not met. This can increase unintended pregnancies and disability, both of which increase girls' risk of being married as children. The second one, traveling to school may become dangerous. Roads may be closed temporarily, or schools may become shelters. Girls are more likely than boys to be taken out of school for safety reasons and less likely to be supported to return after a period away from school. Being out of school increases a girl's risk for marriage. Climate events affect families' incomes, and families under financial pressure may turn to child marriage to help reduce the cost of providing for one of their daughters. Climate disasters can disrupt the systems that help to keep girls safe from violence, like child protection services, law enforcement, schools, and informal protection from friends and family. Some families see child marriage as a way to protect their daughters from strangers. Hotspots where girls face the dual threat of high climate risk and high risk of child marriage are found in sub-Saharan Africa, especially the Sahel region, and in Asia. Globally, nearly 9 million girls face extreme risk of climate disasters and child marriage every year. Many girls in the hotspot countries are also struggling with the worst of the current hunger crisis.
This is what women and girls on the front line of child marriage are saying. Amina, a climate activist in Somalia, says, we are seeing and living the climate crisis. We have seen the drought ruin our farm. Now the sun is very hot. Everything is so dry and the trees are dying. You can't walk along the road because the dust is so bad. The dust is everywhere. Without climate change, I would have had a better life. That is something that really upsets me. In Mozambique, a young woman said, I was pressured to get married when I was 15 years old because we were starving at home. Girls think that by getting married, their living conditions will improve, but not always. Everything depends on luck. Click. In Kenya, a young woman said, Due to climate change, parents are losing their only source of livelihoods, which is livestock, and they are committing suicide. Children are left as orphans, and they may die due to hunger. UNICEF report entitled IS and End to Child Marriage Within Reach highlights that at the current pace, the world is at least 300 years away from ending child marriage. It is also stated that for every 10% increase or decrease in rainfall, there is a 1% increase in child marriage. For example, Pakistan has made significant strides in reducing child marriage, having prevalence over the past 2 decades. These intense rainfall and flooding in 2022 would correlate to an 18% increase in the prevalence of child marriage, equivalent to erasing 5 years of progress. So we have described a few of the links between climate change and gender-based violence, but what do we do about it?
Yes, and this is the overall question. What can we do? Climate action is an essential component in the ongoing fight to eliminate violence against women and girls. This CSW 66 position paper from 2022 from the United Nations Women summarizes the situation well and includes a poster outlining some recommendations that can be taken. And the recommendations are shown in this graphic. Well, it's a very, big picture. I try to lead you through that. Well, the first point, of course, is public and private sectors work together to finance and implement evidence-driven laws. The second crucial factor, develop evidence-driven prevention strategies for sure. The third is provide affordable survivor-centered services. The fourth, obtain flexible funding from states, private sector, foundations, and other donors to support autonomous, girl-led, and women's rights organizations to end gendered violence. Increase access to funding for gender-just climate solutions, especially at the grassroots level. That's the fifth point. And the sixth, include women and girls in decision-making, leadership roles, and environmental governance to support the creation of a green economy. And I think we know exactly that we have to go for parity in each of our countries, on the parliament level as well as on the level of companies. And of course, in the STEM sector. And yes, as well, apply community-based cooperative models to build resilience, including equal land tenure security for men and women. And the last point, create an enabling environment by gathering gendered environment statistics. We all should ask for numbers, of course, and for measuring, because we can't improve it if we don't measure it.
So, knowing what we have learned today, it makes us realize that just how important Zonta International's programs are. Our flagship campaigns of Zonta Says No to Gender Equal Climate Action and Zonta Says No to Violence Against Women raise awareness of the problems and work to close the gender gaps. Through these programs, you can take personal action. By supporting the Zonta Foundation for Women, we can continue to found our international service programs around the world that help women and girls face the combined and interrelated challenges of climate change and gender-based violence. During the 16 days of activism, please use this presentation and the references in it to raise awareness of the links between the climate change and violence against women. Let's build a better world for women and girls. Thank you.